Welcome to Transform and Transformational, a TeachBeyond podcast. I'm Kian.
And I'm Heather. We're here to explore what it means to be transformed in our own lives and how that overflows to living lives of transformational impact in our communities.
Heather, I am guessing you've noticed something a little bit different about me, maybe a different glow. And that's because this is the face of someone who has been to Toledo, Ohio. I know some of you will be shocked that I actually went to Toledo, Ohio. And a lot of you might not even know where Toledo, Ohio is. But it is a great city in the American Midwest.
You know, I've heard of Toledo. I haven't actually stopped there because it does seem more like just a rest stop type of town to me. But there has to be more to the story. Tell me more.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting. And a lot of people probably feel the same way you do about not knowing anything about Toledo, Ohio, other than that it exists. Well, I have a good friend. In fact, it's actually the person who edits this podcast, Zach Swee, who's been our editor for the last 4 seasons. And he grew up listening to a cassette tape in his car everywhere they drove. And it was a cassette tape about Toledo, Ohio. So this was the thing that his family would listen to over and over again. And so ever since he was a kid, he dreamed about one day making a journey to the promised land, Toledo, Ohio. So finally for this year, his wife got him a gift, which was a birthday present, and it was a trip to Toledo, Ohio. So I was able to join him on his lifelong journey to finally make it to this city.
Wow, you know, I love this story because this is just the greatest. I love when you can go and visit a place that has some sort of personal meaning or like kind of do the non-touristy thing in the place that you go, but it's like personally meaningful to you or, you know, has some sort of humor to it. What did you do while you were in Toledo?
Well, yeah, our trip to Toledo, Ohio was very much scripted by the songs in the tape. So the tape mentions the zoo. So we went to the zoo. It mentions the Maumee River. So we went there. We got a hot dog at the Paco's hot dog stand. So every place that was mentioned in the song we would do as long as it was possible. And that was a lot of them, but we were able to visit the different attractions from the song.
That is fantastic. I love it. And I mean, I guess we're kind of dating ourselves that you're talking about a cassette tape too.
Yes.
So I'm so glad you still found a way to play that tape and know what was on it so that you know, could visit those attractions.
Yeah, it was everything you could want it to be. It was great.
Well, that's fun. Well, our guest today is Marcos Reis, who is the chair of TeachBeyond's Global Board and TeachBeyond Brazil's National Board. And this is part of our Work and Calling series. So we're going to hear a little bit about Marcos' story of how he came to be involved with TeachBeyond.
Marcos is a chiropractor in Gramado, Brazil. He has a bachelor's degree in chiropractics, specializing in workers' health, as well as a postgraduate degree in theology.
He and his wife, along with their 1-year-old, live in Gramado, Brazil. Let's go over to that conversation now.
Hi, Marcos. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Keen. Hi, Heather. Nice to be here.
Yay. Well, we're so excited to have this conversation with you today, Marcos. And you serve with TeachBeyond, but not as your full-time job. You're the chair of TeachBeyond's Global Board. And we're going to get into that role of what it means to be leading the board and to be involved with TeachBeyond in that way. But first, we'd love to have a little bit of background on you and your work that you do, like your full-time job. So you're a chiropractor. Can you tell us how you got into that field?
Yes, I work as a chiropractor and I'm volunteer at TeachBeyond for many years. And being a chiropractor started when I was in high school. I intended to pursue a career in technology. So I was studying IT, and I had a small incident when I fractured a finger, and I needed to go to physiotherapy to regain normal movement in my hand. Going to the physiotherapist, I liked his job. I liked the environment and the way he was doing his job. And at that time, I was not so sure about pursuing the IT field to working on this. I was not so sure. So I started thinking, and at that time, I was already serving in ministries at church and at camp, and I wanted to have time in my future routine that I could be able to do this, to continue doing this volunteer and volunteer work. at camps and at church. So I started researching for professions in health sector, and a friend of mine told me about chiropractic, which was a new profession in Brazil and still little known at that time. So I saw that as a chiropractor, I could organize my work routine while still keeping time to continue serving ministries at church and mission. So during the 6 years of studying at college, I got to know chiropractic more and more, and I liked the profession more and more. More I knew it, more I liked it, and it was a time of discovering many things. And today I'm here working as a chiropractic for 15 years in my own office.
Marcos, I love that you kind of planned your career based on wanting to be able to volunteer and work in ministry. Has that always been a part of your life, the interest in ministry and missions in that world?
Yes, my parents have always been deeply involved in church ministry, even they wasn't in full time. They contribute for many years to churches planted by Canadian missionaries here in southern Brazil. So I grew up around missions. When I was a teenager, the church promoted some missionaries conferences, and the testimony of the missionaries impacted me that time. So this led me to understand that missions would be part of my life, regardless of profession I choose.
Yeah. So many people share how the stories of others, the testimonies of missionaries impact them, and that it makes it more real, maybe. So yeah, I love that you're mentioning that. Specifically, Teach Beyond, how did you first hear about Teach Beyond and kind of get involved that way?
Well, this is a simple story, but with deep roots. It was based on the church relationship with Teach Beyond, which at that time was called Justin, through retreats and camps. But even before I was born, my parents were already participating in retreats and courses promoted by Justin. The missionaries who planted the church here, where I grew up, came from Canada after having studied at Prairie College. That is the same seminary where the Young's brothers studied. So my relationship with Teach Beyond started even before I was born.
To find out that that's been a part of your life, kind of your family and your family history. So why did you choose to get involved with Teach Beyond when you aren't an educator? What attracted you to serving, even specifically as a board member?
Hmm. Yes, I was already serving with Justin before it became Teach Beyond, and the emphasis was always on evangelism. And in fact, I was never a good evangelist. So, through camps and retreats, I found a good way to serve in favor of evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
And after being a camper for a few years and having served as a volunteer since 2003 at camps, in 2008 I was invited to be part of Brazil committee, uh, serving on it from 2009. So I participated in the entire process of joining the Teach Beyond vision in Brazil. And through the process, we realized that we had already been providing transformational education in Brazil for many years, but using tools other than schools like camps,
Mm-hmm.
retreats, music, and seminary. So the appeal of Teach Beyond goes far beyond formal classroom education, and people with the most diverse initiatives have come to Teach Beyond because God is transforming lives through various forms of education, even using a chiropractor. So even as a chiropractor, a large part of my work at the office is teaching people how they can take care of their own health, to be autonomous, to not be dependent on treatments or medication to feel good. So even in my day to day work at the office, I apply several principles of transformative education that I learned from walking alongside Teach Beyond.
Mm.
So even not being an educator, Teach Beyond is very interesting for many kinds of people, many kinds of working in the kingdom. So I'm learning a lot with TeachBeyond.
Yeah, it's true that there are ways to serve not in a teaching role and also to be an educator in a different type of way, right? So we have people who do jobs that are not at all teaching, and then we have people who teach kind of in informal ways, and you're talking about both of those. And it's such an enriching experience then to be able to learn from each other and understand the different fields that we come from. And yeah, that's great. What does it actually mean? Maybe you can, help us understand. What does it actually mean through your eyes to be the chair of the global board, which we call the global committee, but it's this, board that helps to govern our
Mhm.
organization. So what's your role as the chair of that?
In a very practical way, we have two global committee meetings or board meetings per year. One of them online and other in person. We also have subcommittee meetings to address specific issues, and this in-person meeting is usually integrated to another important TeachBeyond event. So the members of global committee can be as close as possible to the movements that have been happening around the world. But it's much more than that, because being part of this board is a great privilege. Uh, as soon as I arrived at the global board and I saw all those highly qualified and experienced people thinking so deeply about the mission ways, I felt a little embarrassed at first. However, I was very well received by them, and little by little, I began to understand my role as a member of the global committee. And but I would never imagine that one day I would be invited to chair it. I see. Actually, I still see myself as the smallest one there, but that's how it works in kingdom. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's okay. And uh, chairing the global board has been an opportunity to see God acting through many people He raised up, and I tend to understand that my role in all of this is to facilitate the promotion of a space where people can speak and act according to what God has placed in their hearts. So my role that is to mediate conversations, set the pace for meetings, listen to the committee members, and mediate the global committee's relationship with other bodies, especially the relationship with David, the president. So, in short, I see myself just facilitating the work of highly qualified people who thinks and guides the mission under God's hand. So I'm very grateful to God for being surrounded for with so much fantastic people, and the role is not complicated at all. I use it to say that being chair in Brazil is more complex than being chair in global role,
Mm, mm.
because there are some differences between the two roles, and it's a blessing in its own way, being chair in Brazil and being chair in global committee.
There you go, there you go. Yeah. It's so important to have the board as, like, an anchor for, making sure that we're on track, right? And to have I totally resonate with you that it is humbling to sit around a table of people who bring their gifts and their, skills and backgrounds so well to the work, and it's encouraging to be in that. And I find you to be such a humble leader of that as you just mentioned, that you are helping to keep the conversation going, but it's a patient pace, to allow things to develop. And that's such an encouragement.
Thank you for the encouragement.
Yeah. I'm curious, you mentioned that leading the global committee is different than leading in Brazil. Do you want to talk any more about that?
Yes, in Brazil, we are multitask people. We do many things. The role is bigger. The
Mm.
tasks are many. So I am daily involved in almost daily involved in discussions and meetings and talking to people. So it's more intense in
Mm.
the role in Brazil. In global board, I take place more on mediating the
Mhm.
meetings. There's full team that make it all done, and we just enter to the meetings to discuss the things and to define and to decide on things. We don't need to create all the documents. We don't need to create all the descriptions of what is going to be discussed. It comes ready. Then we can read it and we can think about it. Then we can discuss it and suggest some changings or improvements. Uh, and this is the main role in the global committee. But in Brazil committee, in national board, we are in touch with people day by day by WhatsApp. We use lots of WhatsApp in Brazil. So
Mm.
we are day by day in touch. I am day by day in touch with Jussara, who is the national director. I'm day by day in touch with Ednardo, with Marcelo, who are the directors are also for other for finances and for ministries. So I'm in touch with them day by day by WhatsApp, and they bring me sometimes questions. Sometimes I give them questions, and some troubles appears, and we act as a team around
Mhm. Mhm.
these troubles if it's if they are a little complex. And we have many opportunities last years in Brazil. So the ministry in Brazil and the structure in Brazil is growing. So as it's growing, the work is growing also.
Mm. Mhm.
So we split this. We carry each other
Mhm.
on this growing. We are not able to doing anything alone here. We don't see ourselves enough being to being enough to do things alone. So we are in touch every day, but it's not heavy. Sometimes people, oh, it must be heavy. No, it's not heavy. We are enjoying this. God is giving us wisdom. God is giving us energy. God's giving us ideas to go through this, and it's amazing to being used by God on things that He's doing, and God is so good that sometimes we can see the fruits of this work. We are not working for fruits, but sometimes in
Mhm.
God's grace and He allows us to see some fruits.
Yeah.
So it's very encouraged to be part on this and see people changing, see people coming, see people committing to the mission, and it's very good. So it's not. Have at all. Jesus said his burden is light, and is this we are what we are feeling and living in Brazil uh, through this lots of work.
Mm. Mm. That's such a beautiful way to picture that, that the burden is light. There is work to be done, but as you carry each other in that work, then it can feel light. That's great.
Yeah, I was going to comment on just how the spirit you have with when you carry these responsibilities, this work is so joyful. The work on the global board and the Brazilian board, and it sounds like that's plenty to keep you busy. But is there any other ways that you are involved with Teach Beyond?
I started getting involved by attending retreats, which I still do sometimes today. Then serving in the camps, which also continues to happen, but now more behind the scenes. Then, as a member of national committee at the national board, then chairing national board. And my wife is also a volunteer and member of national committee, so we talk a lot about Teach Beyond in our
Mm.
house too.
Mm.
And all these types of involvement continue to happen at the same time. I think the involvement is more about relationship with people than about our role in the mission. It all starts with relations. So as we are relating, we are having relationship to each other. It's natural that happens. I'm friend of people in camps. I'm friend of people from retreats. I'm friend of people in many levels of Teach Beyond that takes me to be involved with all this, all that's happening. So I think that as as everything starts with our relationship with God, it continues in relationship with each other. So I think it's kind of natural, but not natural. It's supernatural, being involved in many layers of Teach Beyond, because there are so nice people in these many layers. So I'm happy to be in touch with all them.
Well, I'm going to ask you about what you enjoy most about serving with Teach Beyond, and I'm guessing that relationships could be an answer to that. But
Yes,
yeah, what
sure.
would you say you enjoy most, or what excites you most about where the organization is going from what you're seeing
Mhm.
in all those different layers that you're working with?
What I like most in this moment are the stories of transformation that happen despite the odds. So I believe God has a special appreciation for doing things in an unlikely time or environment. And this happens all time in Teach Beyond. This is happening all time. And in Brazil, we are living a new moment where God has answered prayers of many years made in the midst of many crises. And this was all in this kind of time, this God's unlikely time. It's happening when we less expect. And globally, we live in a time of getting closer and exchanging. And I believe that what excites me most is the potential that God has developed through Teach Beyond, so that diverse people from many languages, many cultures, many gifts can come together for the expansion of the kingdom.
That's great. You mentioned that Brazil is, I love how you say living in a new moment, that this is, answered prayer. Can you tell us maybe a quick story about how you've seen God at work recently and maybe how we can be praying for that work,
Hmm.
Marcos?
Yes, I would like to tell you something about Brazil. It's very common from Brazilian people to live in the midst of crisis, financial crisis, leadership crisis, personal crisis, family crisis, and all of this is commonly seen as normal. I believe that it happens all over the world, but here is where I'm living and looking at this and feeling this, that something people see crisis as normal, but we have experienced a moment of peace at Teachbem Brazil, a time where the crises are behind us and we see ourselves with energy and potential to serve other places too. And for many years we were a mission field, and now we are increasingly seeing ourselves as hotbed of missions. We need to learn about it. We are learning what it is like to be a hotbed of missions. So we need God to continue guiding us in the various projects aimed at this transformation. For example, we have the Thinking the Future project, in which Brazil's leadership is engaged so that the mission becomes increasingly financially sustainable and has the capacity in the future to also contribute to supporting projects outside of country. Financials were always a problem here, and God was faithful by providing what we needed to don't close the doors. But now we are in another moment that God is expressing His faithfulness in another way, and we are learning how to deal with this. And we also have the implementation of GTEC in Gramado, which aims to enhance the global dynamics of relations between the different cultures and nations where TeachBeyond operates. So we have uh, many new opportunities, and we have new members joining Teach Beyond Brazil weekly. Next month, we will hold a Brazil committee meeting to send more than 30 new missionaries, and it's blessing because we are not looking for new missionaries in Brazil. We are not searching for them. God is bringing them. We are not looking for growing just for grow. We are looking to be excellent, to be lovely, to be humble, to be to act in partnerships. We are looking to our values, and God is bringing people who are inspired by these values too. So it's very encouraging to see, and I believe that the relationships are the most important. The relationships created and maintained through these many points of contact are the most important. I've observed that God likes to establish relationships through which we perform actions. Uh, it's not a rule, but it happens very often here in Latin America. First, the relationships, then the work, and through the relationship. So we have grown from relationships, and this all needs to be in God's hands, because we don't control relationships, and He's the one who promotes and preserves the all this work. So we can pray in gratitude for God for what He has done, asking Him to equip us each day with wisdom and discernment and love, to be good stewards of what He is doing.
I love that. That is so encouraging. There's so many times you can pray for growth, for success, and that you can then support others. And it's so exciting to hear that that is actually happening in Teach Beyond Brazil.
Hmm.
So exciting. Marcos, thank you so much for talking to us. Before I let you go, there's one question we always ask all of our guests, and that's what's one thing that's changing your life? So that can be something big or small, something serious or light. We'll let you decide where you want to go with the answer. So I'll go first. We have a little bit of time to think about it. So the big thing that's changing my life right now is maybe kind of small is I replaced all my smoke alarms, which is
Mm.
not the biggest deal, except every like 3 weeks or something, one of them would start chirping and we would have to like replace the battery or figure out something. And I realized it was just, they're just old. So I had to replace them. So that
Nice.
is life changing when it's not chirping in the middle of the night. Definitely,
Yes,
it's helpful.
that is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Mine is something pretty small too, Kian, honestly. We're going on the light side this week, Marcos. Mine is scented hand soaps. I really like having seasonal hand soaps. And so as the seasons are changing, having some we're in a different season than you, Marcos, but having some like seasonal hand soaps is just kind of fun. So a little thing this week, but it's changing my life for this week. What about you, Marcos?
Nice. Yes, me and Barbara, my wife, we are trying something new that's new for us. That is raising a child. So we have a baby with 1 year and 5 months, who's called Stevan. So we can imagine how much is changing. It's from the smallest things to the biggest things. Everything is changing daily, day by day, and the perspective of priorities changes. Things that were important are not so important, are no longer so important, and other things that we didn't pay attention to now become essential. And we believe that we can see that from the perspective of parents, God is changing the way we see the world. So one specific thing that I see changing is that I'm working with more dedication, and I also started to make better use of my time, not just because of necessity, but a baby is a great motivation to work better and live better. So we have been trying to take better care of our health, because a baby requires good health of his parents, and uh, by seeing the daily changes in the baby, we realize that time passes quickly, and the perspective on life changes and awakens in us a healthy feeling of urgency. uh, I use it to be more of a procrastinator, but God has used it stable in my life to transform that. So I'm sometimes I'm very tired, but very grateful by Stefan in our life.
Mm.
It's a blessing.
Yes, that definitely is a life-changing thing and continues to change as he's getting older, right? Different phases require different things from the parents.
Yes,
So
yes, we
that's
can
great.
see this in our friends' lives who have kids or teenagers or young
Yes,
people,
right.
or and the
Mm,
parents' role is always changing. So we
yes.
change with this.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Marcos, for sharing your story, sharing about Teach Beyond Brazil with us. Yeah, giving us this kind of picture of God's faithfulness to you and to Teach Beyond Brazil. And we're just so thankful to be able to have this conversation today.
Yes, thank you. I want to remember and say something in Portuguese because many
Sure.
people who are listening
Yes.
is in Português. E eu quero
Please.
lembrar das pessoas do Brasil que falam português, das pessoas que falam espanhol, mas entendem o português também. E especialmente queria lembrar dos nossos irmãos de Moçambique, que conhecemos na Conferência Regional da África. Então, vocês estão em nossas orações, temos conversado bastante a respeito de como podemos fazer para sermos mais presentes junto com vocês e vocês conosco. Então, através desse podcast, a gente tem um ponto de encontro, mas que sejam muitos outros pontos de encontro e de contato que a gente possa ter. So, translating this, just a short, I was telling that it's important to remember our friends, our brothers who speak Portuguese, not just in Brazil, but also in Africa. And I was remember our brothers from Mozambique that we met in Africa regional conference, and we are praying for them, and we are looking for ways to be closer with them.
That's great. Yeah. Teach Beyond is such a great we call it our global community, right? That we are a big family and we can't know every person, but making those connections and getting to serve together is one of the deepest joys of
Yes,
doing the roles that we have. So, yeah.
yes, great.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Então, muito obrigado, pessoal, por terem ouvido e que vocês aproveitem esse podcast que é bênção na vida de todo mundo e nos vemos por aí. Um abraço.
For our weekly spotlight, we are focusing on one of the projects in Brazil, an English language center called Beyond Inglês, located in Brasilia, Brazil. If you're interested in learning more, visit teachbeyond.org/go or visit the link in the show notes.
Hearing about Marcos's parenting journey there reminded me of you, Can, and your boys, and I'm sure you can relate with what he was saying.
Oh, for sure. Especially the learning to slim down and figure out what's actually important and then being much more efficient with
Mm,
your time. Purely
mm,
out of necessity, you need to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Marcos, Kian, and I all serve with an organization called Teach Beyond. As you've heard, education plays a big role in missions in all different types of ways, and Teach Beyond is a part of that.
As followers of Jesus, Teach Beyond is a global community providing transformational education services as part of God's ongoing mission to transform individuals and communities into all He intends.
Want to learn more and get involved? Visit teachbeyond.org or follow us on social media.
To help more people find the podcast and hear about Teach Beyond, we'd love it if you would leave a rating or review and share this show with a friend. Be sure you're subscribed or following the show on the platform where you listen so you never miss an episode.
And as always, you can reach us at podcasts@teachbeyond.org. We'll see you next week.
The mystery word for this week is committed.